The course is designed to make learners more familiar with the basic principles and concepts of effective language teaching and training. So by the time they come to do the course, they should be in a better position to hit the ground running, or at least have a better foundation in those concepts and principles. It will also help minimize some of the effective factors that learners have, well, that candidates have when doing a training course in terms of managing that amount of learning and managing the learning curve a bit better. The basic fundamentals of effective education remain just that, the fundamentals, and I believe the fundamentals should be our starting point. What they need, I believe, is exposure to those basics and those fundamentals at earlier stages of their training, so it sets them up in good stead for further development in those very things throughout their career. There's a lot to learn on a Cambridge CELTA or a Trinity CertTESOL, and that's what we decided we needed a product for, to help candidates manage that content. We researched not just the private English language teaching sector, but also applied linguistics and education in general. We literally had discussions with teachers from all over the world, both teachers who are newer to the profession as well as more experienced educators and teacher trainers from a variety of different contexts, training in a variety of different contexts and from a variety of different backgrounds. And we discussed with them what they felt the core principles of effective training were, and what were some of the emerging needs that their candidates were having on their teacher training programs. Teachers doing programs like CELTA and CertTESOL are from an increasingly international market these days, and teachers from non-English speaking environments are becoming the norm. In many ways, qualifications such as CELTA and Trinity CertTESOL have outgrown the market that they were originally conceived of for, and the target audience that was whom they were designed for. That doesn't invalidate the qualification these days, but we feel this change needs to be reflected in teacher training programs themselves, but also in a product like ours, which prepares candidates for those programs. What we have on pre-service teacher training programs these days, on one hand, are a lot of candidates who come from entirely traditional teacher-fronted educational environments who may have no concept whatsoever of the idea of handing the lesson over to learners and to help learners facilitate their own learning. They feel they need to do everything themselves in the classroom. We need to be able to cater to them. And on the other hand, you may have candidates who come from a more learner-centered educational environment themselves, but who may not necessarily know what that is explicitly, or they don't know how to make that a reality when it comes to their own teaching. So while the first module, for example, is focused on the notion of learner-centeredness, we don't entirely promote that as the only option available to teaching, that just because something may be teacher-centered, it's not necessarily bad. But of course, as we know, one of the things that all candidates coming onto this course do need to get their head around and to be able to make a reality in the classroom is learner-centeredness. We look at the notions of learner-centeredness, learner differences, needs-based learning, differentiation, monitoring, feeding back to learners, contextualization of new language, and so on and so forth. There are also optional discussion forums which help get participants started on reflective practice, which, as we know, is an essential element of being an effective teacher. The course itself is not actually methodologically orientated. It doesn't favour task-based learning over grammar translation or dogme over PPP. We strongly felt that any choice of methods or techniques or approaches were very much the remit of the individual provider or centre or even the individual tutors. That it's not our place to determine to preempt which methods or techniques or approaches should be covered in an individual course. As the concept of the course was to help familiarise learners with the content and make it more accessible for them when they come to do their training program, that we wanted them essentially to feel more comfortable about that content and about those concepts. So the lack of formal assessment is there to help minimize any effective factors that candidates might have about studying and the quantity of material that they have to learn. However, on the other hand, we do understand that assessment can be very motivating. So we have in fact embedded some elements of informal assessment into the design of the course. There's an opportunity for quizzes and comprehension tasks which actually get graded and tallied at the end of the course. But the candidates are welcome to repeat those quizzes and those comprehension tasks as often as they want, and to go back and review the material and answer the questions again. After all, the point is to actually learn something and become familiar with the content rather than simply to test their knowledge. The purpose of the course is not for the candidates to apply their information. That is the remit of their teacher training program. So in many ways, the course is designed to prepare them for application rather than assess them on their application that they actually do. But that also incorporates an element of differentiation onto the course. So if the candidate does want to extend themselves and look at application, they have the option of doing that. And it's important to give candidates options, as it is important to give any learner options. If you have any other questions about the course, or if you'd like to ask us questions about how we could adapt or customize the course for your centre, then please feel free to contact us at ELT Campus.